Hello, hello. Sean of Sean's Basement. Um, I might as well just get this shit over with. But I am a tongue cancer survivor. Yes, I sound kind of weird because I'm a tongue cancer survivor. Now, what does that mean? That means that right now I'm only using about 20% of my original frontal tongue, um, and the back of my tongue in order to speak. And so a tongue cancer is a growth that starts in the tongue and can travel to the lower tongue and goes to the esophagus and then goes to the lungs and then it can go to the rest of the body and that can be very bad. So I'm currently a tongue cancer survivor, stage 3 tongue cancer survivor, and I was diagnosed in October of 2021, and as of today of recording this, I am more than a year and a half in remission, and I guess I just wanted to talk about some of my experiences. Um, a lot of the videos online, you scroll down and you type in uh, cancer testimonial or I have cancer, right? And you see all of these viral videos of people talking about their cancer diagnosis. Um, None of those people, oh my god, it's fucking white. None of these people have, encountered tongue cancer. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. So I had, like I said before, I had about 80% of my frontal tongue removed. And so going back to April of 2021, I got COVID, and it was bad. And then a couple of months later, I felt a little bump in my tongue, right? Uh, and I went to a local ENT person, uh, and then they said, "Hey, are you sure this is because of COVID?" And well, I unassumingly said, "Yeah, sure. You know, I got COVID and something developed. It could have been like a result of long COVID." So he injects steroids into what he thought was a cyst, right? And I go back to this guy a couple of months later, um, and then he says, "Oh, it's the same size. Are you sure this because of COVID?" I'm like, well, you know, like I'm not a doctor, like, but you tell me, you know, is it COVID or do you want to do a biopsy? And he decided not to do a biopsy, stupidly enough, in retrospect. And he injects more steroids into what he thought was a cyst. Um, I go to the dentist around the same time, and the dentist doesn't know what it is. Uh, and then in September of about 2021, the what I thought was a cyst becomes bigger. And I said, well, okay, there's something wrong here. So luckily I got a new EMT person, and that person was kind of like at the top of his field at the University of Maryland at the EMT center there. The EMT center is a referral center. Uh, so yeah, I got the biopsy, and they told me it was cancer, and that they were doing a partial gastrectomy, but really almost like a whole gastrectomy, of the frontal tongue. So you have a frontal tongue, which is like in this area, and then you have a tongue that's sort of located in the back of the throat, um, and part of the tongue that's located there, and my surgery dealt with the frontal part of the tongue. So in December of 2021, I went into the University of Maryland. I got my 13-hour surgery. Um, I was loaded with uh oxy the first day. Um, uh, I was totally out of it, and they cut about 80% out. They took a muscle and a skin graft from my left leg, and they reconstructed it so that they can put it back into my into the area where the tongue had been extracted through my neck. They also extracted 4 lymph nodes. Um, so that actually made it uh, easier to put the transplant in the correct place. So they did it through here and not through there, right? Um, so after I got out, I had all this shit on my body. Um, I had a feeding tube up my nose. I I had this horrible scar or this horrible abrasion on my leg. It bled all the time. Um, I had wires connected to me. I had dreams. It was a fucking mess. I was a fucking mess, and I would not want to wish that on my worst enemy. But uh, it sort of we had to do what had to be done. But yeah, I also had stitches in the mouth as well. Um, so in order for the surgery to heal and for the tongue to accept the muscle as native tongue tissue, it needs to the stitches need to be in there for a while just to make sure the the tongue accepts the transplant that was put there for my leg. Um, and yeah, so what else? Well, I was there for 10 days. I barely got any sleep. I probably got about 2 to 3 hours of sleep because I was just in pain for a lot of the time. I didn't take oxy. I only took Tylenol. Looking back, that was probably not the best decision. But people just kept telling me, "Oh, don't take oxy, don't take oxy." Um, so I tried not to, given the implications of it, and given that you can get addicted to it. Um, and because I also forgot I had a trach in this area. That was installed. I couldn't speak for 10 days, and after that, a more permanent trach was inserted. They did a test, and usually they do this so that uh, if they do any extraction of nose down here, it makes it easier for them to work in this area. And like usually, if you don't have saliva going in from foods, that area is usually pretty dry. So it made it easier just to clip the gunk out after the surgery and throughout the 10 days of my hospital stay. Hey, so quick editor's note. I don't explain it very well here, but I actually don't have a trachea inside of me right now. What actually happens is that they take the trachea out, and then they let you put your finger over your the place where the trachea was placed with some cloth or tissues or toilet paper or whatever. And that area, once it's covered, you can actually make noises. And then after I left the hospital, the area in which the trachea had impacted had healed up by its own in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. Um, so I'm still dealing with issues as a result of the surgery, albeit I'm doing a lot better now. I do have some reduced neck movement and some reduced jaw movement. But I mean, I can still do normal daily tasks, obviously. and the reduced speech is a big one, but I've kind of learned to overcome that, and I guess I can go further into that as I uh, explain this a bit more. Holy shit, already almost 10 minutes. Um, so, um, so I got out of the hospital. They also installed a summit tube within me. I had to drink this stuff called Zevity for nutrients. It was really fucking gross. It was like this very nutrient supplement drink, energy drink, but it kind of tasted like bread, so it just smelled awful. Um, but I mean, I think Zevity kind of came in clutch because I couldn't eat while while the stitches were healing. Um, those were some very tough days, but the summit tube came in clutch for sure. So yeah, and I kind of started off with liquid foods after I was able to eat again. 10 days after my surgery, like mashed potatoes and yogurt and cream of wheat, this sort of stuff. And then, since some of the cells had exited the lymph nodes before the surgery, I had to get radiation and chemo to verify that the chemo or the cancer wouldn't spread through the rest of the body and it wouldn't come back in the case of it being able to come back, right? In this area plus the rest of the body. So, I actually opted for a procedure called Proton therapy, which is different from normal therapy in that there's a lot of studies saying that proton therapy gives off the same results, but except with like fewer negative outcomes and fewer symptoms from doing proton therapy. The big thing is there's just less scarring involved. Usually when you have these huge radiation machines, there's a lot of scarring involved, and a lot of that was applied to the neck. With normal radiation machines, usually they apply it to the entirety of the neck, and that part of the neck is very scarred, but also the skin sort of peels off very incrementally. They also use a mask to keep me in place for the proton surgery, for proton therapy, excuse me. The proton therapy is very focused in certain areas of your neck and of the places where they want to apply radiation, versus normal machines just sort of apply it to the entire body. Honestly, I think, okay. And then I had chemotherapy as well. I had cisplatin for 3 times over the course of 6 weeks. And I vomited a lot. And that was really, really tough. But probably not as tough as the radiation. Because the radiation, I sort of had to teach myself how to eat again. And everything I put into my mouth, it just sort of felt like my mouth was on fire. And there were many instances where I started to develop mucositis, I think it's called, where the mucus cells don't have enough. There's not enough displacement of the mucus, and it kind of becomes stagnant, and then there's bacteria that can form from that. It's really fucking gross. That was rough to deal with. It also didn't help that I accidentally pulled out my feeding tube 2 weeks into radiation. Definitely not recommended. That was very stupid of me. But if you have a feeding tube, it does come in clutch for sure. But For this, I sort of just had to teach myself how to eat because if I didn't, I was going to die. And while I was doing all of this, I worked for 6 hours a day, and well, in the hospital, I didn't do any work. My company was fine with me just going, being in the hospital, and with no, I didn't have to worry about work at all. Um, and I shit, lost my train of thought. So yeah, so during radiation, I worked 6 hours a day, and then I would go to radiation for 3 hours, and then come back and work 2 3 hours. After I came to radiation, after I came back from radiation, because radiation was Monday through Friday, right? And uh, looking back retrospectively, I'm not really sure why I did this. I think I just wanted to get the cancer shit off of my mind, and I wanted something to really sort of take my mind off of things. And yeah, I think that's sort of like the extent of most of the stuff I went through. After it's a bit misleading because radiation is for 6 weeks, and I I really had the effects of radiation for like 9 to 10 weeks because after I got radiation, everything I put in my mouth my mouth still felt like I was on fire. The mucositis didn't go away until maybe like 2 weeks after I finished radiation. So that was pretty significant for me. But that's really the whole shebang of why I sound like this and why some of the struggles I went through. I kind of just want to talk about some of the things I've learned in the process of doing this. Oh, yeah. So I learned that the turnover for nurses is really high, and nursing units and hospitals are very short-staffed. This was especially true during COVID. Not only does data show this, but I know anecdotes don't constitute actual arguments, but I was in the PACU, the place we go to after surgery, for 3 days. They couldn't find a spot for me in the hospital for 3 days because it was full, because many people were in the hospital for COVID. So that was very interesting learning that and how the data lines up with a real life example, which is myself, and how I was sort of involved in some of these numbers to determine, I guess, contributing to the short staff and high turnover of nurses. I think one thing I will say is that a lot of people who talk about healthcare policy online, especially on YouTube, this is going to get me into so much trouble. I don't give a shit. People who talk about healthcare on YouTube and get into debates about it, I feel like there's a very non-nuanced approach to those discussions. And we always have this tendency to look at the U.S. healthcare system and see like, oh well, it's all evil, or like it's so broken. There's no hope for it. Blah blah blah. And some of those criticisms are correct, but I think one thing that I think some people don't they fail to mention is that medical technology has come a long way, and I think this is especially apparent for me with the Proton machines. The Proton machines are primarily developed in Western Europe, Japan, and the U.S. And I did a quick search of where Proton machines are located, and it's really just those 3 places. And it's a very new technology over the past 15 years, and it's been helping subside the effects of radiation for a lot of different patients, such as myself. Um, and I think it's pretty unfair to say that the medical system is evil and we have to reconstruct it. Have these other really unproductive conversations. When I think medical technology like this has really facilitated um, enjoyment in people's lives and made it easier to cope with having cancer such as lung cancer. I also learned that I was very fortunate that I was close to a referral center, and referral centers are a blessing in disguise, because the U.S. is very fortunate to have not only good doctors, but very good specialists as well. Um, there aren't too many places in the world where you have not only good general doctors, but also very good specialists. And if you do come across a bump on your tongue or your neck, not only don't go to your local dentist, and don't go to your local ENT. I think it's pretty. If you find that, you need to see like a ENT surgeon right away if you can have access to it. Um, because that person will know what will need to be done in order to facilitate that kind of taking out of you. Because squamous cell carcinoma is not it's not a very common cancer. It spreads very quickly, and if you do have it, you should probably get it taken out as quickly as possible. I'm not sure of like what your current situation is, whether you're going through cancer or whether you had this particular cancer that I had. I don't care if this video has 2 fucking views, but I hope that this helps at least one person understand what tongue cancer is, and what the effects of it can be, and the amount of hardship that's involved. I wouldn't wish tongue cancer on my worst enemy. I think it is probably one of the harder cancers to beat. I guess one more thing I learned before we end this is they still haven't figured out why I got tongue cancer to begin with. Traditionally, tongue cancer usually appears because of smoking and chewing tobacco and this sort of crap, drinking. I didn't do any of that stuff, and I'm 30 years old, so perhaps I'm part of a statistic of people that is up and coming, unfortunately. So I hope this sort of was a good sort of guideline as to why I went through and what tongue cancer is. If you want to support causes for tongue cancer, I would absolutely recommend the Oral Cancer Foundation. They do a lot of research and walks and things like this, specifically with regards to oral cancers, like the one I had. I just donated to them a couple of weeks ago, and it's it's a good org to donate to. So I think that's about it. If anyone has any comments or questions, I'm happy to answer some of them, but I don't have social media and I don't care to communicate with everyone in the world. So that's all ends it here. I'll see you around.